One natural disaster could change your life forever. What can you do? Turn to AARP. We help older adults and their families prepare, respond, and recover with evacuation checklists to help you remember prescriptions and other essentials, information to help you avoid scammers, connections to on-the-ground emergency responders, and lots of other tips and tools. At AARP, we're here to help. Find us at aarp.org/local.
Time, weather, and
Highways. How you doing, everybody? I'm Chief Meteorologist Denis Phillips. Heat's still the hot topic of weather conversation, right? Just smashed the previous record for rainfall in Tampa. Still a very nice day. We've got some clouds out there, even a couple of sprinkles as another front rolls through the area. Most of us wake up to sunshine and then very warm temperatures in the afternoon. For temperatures, they're going up and they're staying up. Really nice forecast, especially if you're planning on going to the beach or the pool. Rain chances very slim. It's another beautiful day in store. It's going to bring us a very high chance of storms. Isolated showers across the area. Mother Nature likes to remind us that it isn't set by a calendar. We're always on it for you, just in case things begin to pop.
Streaming from the ABC Action Weather Center in Studio A, this is Denis Phillips Live, sponsored by AARP Tampa Bay.
How you doing, everybody? It is a Thursday night edition of Denis Phillips Live. It is also treat night here at ABC Action News. It is a 30-year tradition, well, 29-year tradition. It actually, I think, started like maybe November of 1994. I was only 3 years old at the time, so I've heard about it. But regardless, yeah, it's been going on for a long, long time, and I don't know whose treat night it is, but we will find out shortly. We've got a lot of stuff to talk about. We have Philippe, we have Rena, we have the GFS, hashtag cha-ching, talking about a strong cold front in about 8 or 9 days. We have the GFS also spitting up a tropical system, probably hurricane in the northern Gulf on my son's wedding day. I told him, I'm like, Brett, why do you want to have a New Orleans wedding in the middle of October? You are just tempting the weather gods. You are. You're just saying, Mother Nature, come on, are you really gonna? We'll get into that. But I just looked at the GFS a little while ago, and it does develop something. It's over 2 weeks out. We all know how accurate the GFS is out 2 weeks. But nevertheless, it is something we will be able to talk about. Let's do some hellos, and then we'll do some recapping. Ryan, how you doing? Leisha, we got kind of our core audience here tonight. Usually, we see how the numbers spike if there's any severe weather, whatever's going on out there. And while there are 2 tropical systems, neither pose a threat whatsoever to the U.S. or any of the Caribbean islands. It does not appear. We have got Jeff, spelled J-E-P-H. How you doing, Jeff in Hudson? Jules is in Orlando today. Jules, why are you in Orlando? We've got Mary from Lillman. We have Gary in Winter Haven. Emily. You like that lightning? Yeah, that was pretty funny. That is actually available. That lightning sweatshirt was seen at the Target in Pinellas Park earlier today, and I posted it on my Facebook page. So, I mean, that might be a collector's item, right? They had one job, spell lightning. However, let's be honest, on my Facebook post, I see it a lot, L-I-G-H-T-E-N-I-N-G. I have seen lightning, and I have seen lightning, L-I-G-H-T-N-I-N-G. And then I've seen heat lightning, which we all know is even more of a myth than any of the other stuff. So lightning is as the sky lightens as the sun rises. Lightning is the stuff that zzz, 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 which we're all aware of in Florida. So Emily, yes, it was very, very funny. We have got, who else do we have here? We've got lots of stuff to talk about, actually, but I do want to do some hellos because I haven't had a chance. Look at Sean. It's like, cold front? Oh, yeah, Sean. Let me show you where the 540 line is in about 10 days. We have got Terry. How you doing? We have got Anna. And I don't know what that number was. We are at the 1-year anniversary of Hurricane Ian. And, I mean, think about that. So Hurricane Ian, 1 year ago today, was the I storm. We are already at the R storm. And remember the long-range predictions, which you always hear me ridicule and mock because long-range hurricane predictions are a waste of time, and they're usually wrong. Remember that, oh, it's an El Nino, so we're going to have a quieter than normal season. But then once we hit August, and you got to give credit to NOAA and Colorado State because they doubled down on increasing the predictions, even though at that point it was pretty quiet. We had not had a lot of named storms by August 1. But we are now already to the R storm. And I'll look at the names on here in a minute because we might very well get all the way through the alphabet. Now, we no longer go to the Greek alphabet. They've stopped doing that because it was too confusing. So there's a supplemental list of names if we were to get through the list. I don't have that list handy, but I know there is one. Joyce, how you doing? Stephen in Clearwater, good to see you. Eva, how are you? You know what, Eva? That is a great question, and I've addressed that a couple of times. So we had our DPL on Tuesday, and even on Monday, the models were so in on this boundary of all this moisture. I mean, I showed it to you right here. It was showing 4 or 5 inches of rain, and it's just not even close. Not even close. The moisture was certainly around, but remember, when you get a westerly flow like we have had all summer long and now into early fall, the rain sets up I-75 East. And they have had a ton of rain this week. Go figure, the rich get richer inland and the east side of the state. Now, there have been some rain. There's been some rain along the west side, but not nearly as much as what was going on inland. Matter of fact, well, I'll finish the hellos, and then we'll do local, and then we'll talk about the tropics. Nancy, how you doing? Good to see you. Pompano Beach is in here, is here with Diane. We've got Homosassa with Karen. St. Pete's in the house with Julie. Sarah in Tarpon. They got a 10-minute shower in Nokomis, Betty said today. Winter Haven, how you doing, Pam? Clearwater, Marianne. Palm Harbor, Deb. We've got Joanne in Ocala. We've got Rosa. How are you, Rosa? We have Terry. Good to see you as well. Jennifer is looking for some cold weather. Well, oh, you're working, Jules. Gotcha. Apollo Beach is in the house. Nancy's asking about the cold front. All right, well, you know what? Let's just go ahead and talk about that, too. Lots of hellos to everybody. I want to thank everybody I had a chance to meet and everybody who voted for the Creative Loafing Best of the Bay. They had 832,000 votes this year on the Best of the Bay. And it's a really fun list. Now, the issue came out today, and it's free. You can find it in newsstands and newspaper boxes and stuff around. They have around, but if you don't actually want the hard copy or you can't find it, just go on creativeloafing.com, creativeloafing.com. You'll see right at the top, click on it. It says Best of the Bay 2023, and the winners are on there. And I was fortunate enough to win Best TV Newscaster and Best Person to Follow on Twitter, which is now X. But I'm thinking it's kind of more just social media in general, although there was one for Instagram. But anyway, my point is, thank you very much. I posted it last night, but thank you, everybody who voted. I always say stuff like that to me is meaningful because it's people who are actually watching you and watching your team and watching your coworkers and people who, you know, depend on our team for a hurricane season. And I mean, I'm not going to, you know, let's be honest. 9 months out of the year, we're pretty busy. 3 months out of the year, we're pretty busy with weather. The other 9 months, a lot of times it's Florida. Now, I will tell you, I do think this year is going to be much busier, much stormier, more severe weather in the southeast. And we were talking about that, and we'll continue to do so. Let's go ahead and look quickly at the tropics, all right? And then we will show you the GFS and its fronts, as well as its storm. Linda, how you doing? Anna in Homosassa, Kathy in Sarasota. Well, I mean, Alex, you know, we're already to the R storm, so you can argue that is pretty crazy. But once we hit September, the end of September and October, our attention turns toward the Gulf and the Caribbean. There's the latest on Philippe. Philippe is the one on the left. Let me show you. Philippe is this one. That's Philippe. Winds of 45 miles an hour, just moseying along to the west-northwest at 2 miles an hour. The one next to Philippe is Rena. So there's a lot of questions of whether the two can interact or like one could eat the other one. Certainly a possibility. But that does not turn into one much bigger storm if one eats the other one. It doesn't work that way. Now, I will tell you, when you have developing double-barreled low pressure off the mid-Atlantic in the wintertime, that's called a transfer of energy. And that actually does kind of add energy. It isn't necessarily a linear thing where you're not saying you have one's 40, one's 30, so it'll be 70. It doesn't work that way. But there certainly is a transfer of energy from one. And you sometimes have double-barreled lows with an occluded front connecting and then a trailing frontal boundary. Oh, boy, we're getting really winter science-y now. And those are terms that you may have never even heard of if you're from Florida. They're ones that we don't get very often here. But double-barreled lows happen a lot in the mid-Atlantic in the wintertime, and then they often turn into nor'easters. There's a crazy track, right? Look at that track. You've got south-southwest direction, and then all of a sudden it feels that trough, and then boom, it just starts accelerating northward. Again, no threat whatsoever to the United States. All right? So let's talk about the names, because we are now to Rena, and that means Sean will be next. Sean Daly, you guys know our Sean Daly. He is our, oh, sorry, Denise, that's awful. Our Sean Daly is it's kind of like what I would call our feature-ish reporter. Sean's just like goes out and has fun and does fun stories. You do know that a lot of people, when they have a storm coming, I think the majority of people out there, you can deny it if you want, but I'm telling you it's a fact. I think the majority of people out there, when their name is coming up, they're like, all right, I want this to be a big one. I want it to be a big storm. They're not looking for devastation. They're not looking for destruction. But I do think a lot of people have a tendency to say like, oh, watch this storm. It's got to be a big one. You know, and at this point in the year, the threat to the east coast of the U.S. is lower because of these troughs and these jets that we're talking about that help to swing a storm away from the U.S. But what we do start to concern ourselves with is obviously the Caribbean and the Gulf. All right? So with that being said, we'll go back to this map that we did show you a couple of days ago. But if you look, this is from the Global Tropics Hazard Outlook. It's the Climate Prediction Center. And if you look at your scale, so the scale here, this is the scale that we look at. The scale of 20% of the red stripes, greater than 20%, between 20 and 40% chance of tropical development. And then solid red is between 40 and 60. And then solid dark red is 60 or greater. So let us look at areas to the north for October 4th through October 10th. See? Okay. So what do we see? We see potential impact on the southeast coast. Now, that may very well be an Atlantic system that stays very weak and gets closer to the U.S. before it starts to curve away. That is always a possibility. But more importantly, what do we see down in the Gulf, the Caribbean, and the Pacific? All right, now this is significant. I'm going to talk about this. When you look at this map, you say, well, that's two different storms. That's a storm in the Atlantic or, in the Gulf, the Caribbean, or that's a storm in the Pacific. No, it's the same system, potential development. Now, for a number of reasons, we see that. Now, you see how there's kind of a straight line that goes from Let me show you this. So watch this. Imagine a cold front going like that. Imagine a cold front from that one up off the Carolinas through the one in the Gulf and into the Atlantic, and to the Pacific, rather. So when you get a stalled out front this time of the year, it is very common. In fact, you can argue it's the norm that you see development, low pressure development along that boundary. So what this probably is, this one off the Carolina coastline, this is a stalled out front, which we will get to coming up in a minute, Sean, a stalled out front that has low pressure develop along it. That is one system. The other one is quite possibly also development along the southern end of that front, but it could be anywhere from the Pacific to the Caribbean. The point is, lowering pressures are possible in this broad area, but if you look, the models are leaning more toward the west side. Because look, the darker red color, the greater than 40%, is development in the Pacific that's moving away. Lower development east of that in the Caribbean or the Gulf. So that's that, but again, it is still the area that we always watch this time of the year. And from the 11th to the 18th, it is the exact same thing. That area is an area prone to tropical development in October. Okay? So with that being said, let us introduce to you, how did Rod Serling used to say it in the Twilight Zone? For your consideration, I believe it's what he used to say, let's look at the GFS. And we're just going to go ahead and loop the GFS. Okay? You can see the date on here, the 28th, 29th. See the date's right there, 30th. You got your system out in the Atlantic. It's curving away. Quiet in the Caribbean, quiet in the Gulf. You still got stuff going on, you know, out. You got Rena out there getting stronger, pulling north, staying north of the islands. And then you start to, as that pulls away, you start to look at what's coming in from the west. You see a cold front. Now, that's not a particularly strong one, but look at the, I'm going to stop it here. Look at your 540 line, Sean. It makes it into the mid-Atlantic. It makes it into the Northeast. That is a rather strong cold front. And that's a cold front that, if the model is correct, could bring us some drier, slightly cooler air by about October 9th. That's what the GFS is saying. I will tell you something. This is something where experience with these models can really come into play. All right? Usually the way the models work is they're overly aggressive with FROPA, frontal passage. FROPA, F-R-O-P-A, frontal passage. Earlier in the season, they're usually overly aggressive with it. And a week out, it'll bring a front all the way through. And then 5 days out, it stalls it out at Lake Okeechobee. And then 4 days out, it stalls it out in Tampa. And then 3 days out, it stalls it out in Gainesville. And then it ends up making it into southern Georgia. That's the first front. So more often than not, and I'm talking the majority of the time, you will get these models that will be overly aggressive in early October, because I think they're ready for as much cooler air as a lot of us are. And it takes a good 2 or 3 weeks for us to actually start to see. Now, I will tell you, we usually get one decent cool front in the first 15 days of October. It only lasts for a day, 36 hours, the cooler, drier air, but it usually comes. And then we get hotter again by Halloween. You know that, because a lot of you have either brought kids out or you've gone out yourself where you've been sweating bullets out in the heat on Halloween night. So you know that's the case. Anyway, let's go back. So anyway, I tell you that because these models are overly aggressive more often than not with the first front. But there it is. There's your 540 line. And then all of a sudden, you've got your front that's stalling out, right? You see where the front stalled out? I'll show you. And that thing runs all the way from here, back through here, can argue all the way back through here. And that is a strong front. And look what it does to Florida. It completely clears out Florida. This is October 12th. But the issue when you get a front stalling out in the southern Gulf in the Bay of Campeche, this time of the year in mid-October, you have to look at potential development. Now, this is the GFS 2 weeks out, and we all know we don't put any credence at all into the GFS that far out, right? But what would you expect to see from the GFS when you get a front stalling out in that very warm Gulf water over that period of time? Yes, that is what you would expect. Now, here's the reason that I think there is a very good chance of that happening is because that is the day my son is getting married, and I told him he should not have a wedding in mid-October in New Orleans because of hurricane potential. So this is the ultimate I told you so that you want to go ahead and schedule a wedding in New Orleans in the second week of October when it's very common to have hurricanes. You go right ahead, but I'm telling you, there's going to be some teeth grinding at some point. The teeth grinding has begun. So, do I think this, in reality, do I think this is going to happen? No, because the GFS 2 weeks out. But is it possible? You betcha it is. Stalled out front, southern Gulf, very warm waters, lifting northward. It is classic October hurricane. It is. So, and Teresa, you are exactly right, because I made a deal with my boss. When I told her that my son's wedding was in mid-October, she's like, but what if there's a hurricane? I go, Sarah, if there's a hurricane that's coming to Tampa, I'm just going to miss my son's wedding because I got to be here. I mean, it's the responsibility I have. But if there's a hurricane in New Orleans, I'm going live because I used to chase these a lot, and it's fun. You know, Paul Legrone, which, by the way, Paul got an award, a staff award from Creative Loafing. It was like the new Mr. Hunker Down, because Don Gramez used to do it. So there's something from the weather person's perspective about chasing storms that you don't have to twist a meteorologist's arm to go chase most of the time. That's part of our makeup. Anyway, this is the GFS for October 14th. That is 8 a.m. the morning of my son's wedding. So, again, I wouldn't be joking if I really thought that it was going to happen, and it's 2.5 weeks out, but there you have it. So that's all. The Euro does not show anything close to that. It's the GFS, for heaven's sakes. But I'll repeat, is this possible in October in the northern Gulf? You betcha it's possible. There's nothing unusual about development in mid-October in the northern Gulf. Here's the Euro, by the way. And we'll go ahead and show you what the Euro is showing, which is Rena again. We'll look around the 8th or the 9th for that front, which you will not see. But you do see a front right now, but this stalls out over our area, which makes more sense. So here's October 3rd. We look at Rena down here. We look at Philippe. Rena's moving a little bit more to the west because it's weak, but it's eventually going to run into that trough. And here comes the front. The Euro also shows the front, not as strong as the GFS has it. So this is the same day where the GFS has a pretty strong front and a 540 line digging into Pennsylvania. Do you see that anywhere in the Euro? You do not. So let's keep looking. You have Rena pulling away, and there is your front. There is your Euro front, a day behind the GFS, but it is still there. So both the Euro and the GFS around October 9th bring a front that will likely make it through Florida and probably give us about a 36-hour cool down or dry down. Now, you remember, I'll say this again. Remember what I said a few minutes ago. The models are notorious for being overzealous in FROPA in the early part of October. So we take this with a grain of salt, but right now, they're both showing it. So, it's worth mentioning. But what the Euro does not show, which is important to note, is tropical development once that front stalls out in the Western Gulf. Does not show that. Well, wait a minute. No, and then I'll be honest, it doesn't go that far out. So it might, but you never know. Anyway, there's rainfall. That's kind of a buzzkill. The rain, we talked about this earlier on. The models were just so all in on the rain. And, we've had some, but certainly nothing close to what they were going with. By the way, here is the GFS. I want to show you, Sean, because I want to go ahead and show you your 540 line. Look at the front come through. And look at the 540 line. Look at it. Look at it. Look, Sean, look. There it is. Look. All the way to Central Virginia. But, wait a minute. That was some snow. Wait. Let's go back. All right. Yeah, look at that. Look at that. You know what that is? That, my friends, is lake effect snow. That is the lake effect snow right there on October. That's the GFS in 11 days. Oh, man. That's a lot of snow on October 9th in Canada. And lake effect for Buffalo, for the U.S. in Erie. All right? Now look at the Euro in the same time frame. The Euro is slower, but boy, look at that 540 line, digging all the way down into, digging into the Central Rockies. So now it does not, look at the Euro. The Euro keeps the 540 line well to the north. I mean, it's fantasy land this far out. But here's my point, my friends. My point is we are getting closer. We are literally only a couple of weeks away from probably our first decent front. What that front does, if anything develops along the front, that's anyone's question at this point. Anyone's guess, rather, at this point. Okay, Sean, you might see some snow out there. So we are getting closer. We are getting closer. All right? Ryan, I hear you. My power bill, I told you guys this. My electric bill went from $500 to $1,500 last summer for no reason. I still don't know why. Checked the insulation, everything was fine. This summer, it's been $1,300 every day. I only have one unit, one air conditioner. I don't know, but it was never more than $500 in 7 years I was in that house, and then all of a sudden it went up to $1,500. You got me. And it went down to $1,180 this last month. So I'm like, yes, it's small battles. It's craziness. I have no idea why. I have no idea why it's so high, but it's just ridiculous. Okay, so rain potential. Let's go ahead and quickly go over this for our area. I'll tell you, it's not as good as the models were saying earlier, but I will show you Futurecast. So tomorrow, the morning will be dry. No rain in the morning. Mid-afternoon, we see a few showers, and then I think we see some decent coverage tomorrow evening in those areas. Pinellas, Hillsborough, Pasco. Tapers off by 10. Dry morning again on Saturday, and then it gets more active again in the afternoon. And then Sunday and Monday, I think we start to dry out. All right? So that is about it. There is a football game tonight. You got your Detroit Lions and your Green Bay Packers. So I will be watching football. But that's about it. Things are kind of quiet for the streaming folks. you guys have a great night, and we will see you on next Tuesday's edition of Denis Phillips Live. See ya. Okay, so the streamers are gone. I can answer some. And treat night is about to begin, yes. How's Friday night's lights looking in Polk County? Joey, I will tell you, I do think there will be some thunderstorms tomorrow evening in Polk County. I wouldn't say widespread, but definitely some storms. And, if there's lightning within 10 miles, you get delays. So, and I want to thank everyone who voted. There were 832,000 votes for the Creative Living Best of the Bay. Thank you again. I think this is the 5th year that I've won. And it's all because of you guys. It's very, very humbling. So I truly appreciate it. Penn State, Ohio State, October 21 is noon. Oh, Andy. Jeannie, thank you very much. Very kind. All-star donations go to Children's Miracle Network. The 21st at noon. Cannot wait. I'm doing a function. I'm emceeing a function for the Sunshine Foundation on that day at Champions Gate. But that's a 5 or 6 o'clock function. So I will be watching that game. And you know what? I'm telling you flat out, I think Penn State wins that game this year. And I will be honest, I never have any faith in Penn State against Michigan or Ohio State. I don't. But I think it's a different team this year with their new quarterback. Alara's the kid's pretty solid. So that is my prediction. Penn State will upset Ohio State in the shoe on October 21st at noon. That is my prediction. Let's see. No hurricane, Jackie. No. Well, we've got Rena and we've got Philippe, but the only thing, look, I will call him like I see him. I think there will be a storm in the Gulf of Mexico in October. There usually is one, maybe two. So I think we will be tracking storms the next 4 weeks in the Gulf. It's very, very common. Where they go, who knows? They're usually faster moving systems because a lot of times they develop along the tail end of a front and you start the ingredients are out there to make them go faster. Not faster winds, faster forward speed. The Phillips screwdrivers are faring so. I am 2-1, lost by half a point. I would have been 3-0, and I'm 1-2. I drafted Jonathan Taylor thinking he would be able to help me after week 4. My hope was I would be 2-2 at that point. I did draft Puka Nacua, drafted him. I didn't pick him up on waivers. I drafted. And there are a lot of people who can say that. I drafted Puka Nacua because I had a feeling with Cup out, he was going to get a lot of play, and he did. Like, wait a minute, is this a weather chat? Why is he talking fantasy football? Let us see. I get that Nick Saban lookalike. I do. I don't. I think maybe a younger Nick Saban. I'd like to hope, but I do get that from time to time. I do. My hair's a lot darker than Nick Saban. Maybe I have a little bit more of it too. But Nick, I was on a cruise one year, many years ago, and someone came up to me. They were talking to me about Alabama football. I'm like, look, I'm not going to blow your cover. And I was expecting them to say, I'm just a weather guy. I have no cover to blow. Until finally I realized that they thought I was Nick Saban. They really did. All right, guys. Well, I'm going to go watch football. Humor you with the Denver Temps, December 13th to 15th. Okay? Well, if the GFS is right, well, 60s. I would say 60s. So, not a freeze. Although maybe in the morning. All right, guys. Well, thanks for stopping by. Have a great night. Next week, we'll see if the models continue to show that nonsense in the Gulf. Wouldn't be surprised if they do. Everything in the Atlantic should curve away. No issues there. And we need some rain. So let's hope we get some of that too. So you guys have a great night. Enjoy your evening. Enjoy football if you're watching the Lions and the Packers. And I will see you on Tuesday night's edition of Denis Phillips Live. See you guys.
One natural disaster could change your life forever. What can you do? Turn to AARP. We help older adults and their families prepare, respond, and recover with evacuation checklists to help you remember prescriptions and other essentials, information to help you avoid scammers, connections to on-the-ground emergency responders, and lots of other tips and tools. At AARP, we're here to help. Find us at aarp.org/local.